Lisa and happy National Pie Day. On today's chapter, we're going to be making two delicious pies. One of them is our cherry pie. It is very fruity and delicious. And the next one we're going to do is a no-bake caramel banana pie. The only thing we would be baking is the crust, so let's get these pies ready and let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do is start off with our crust for our cherry pie. It is a standard butter crust and it is perfect with this recipe. I have 325 grams or 2 cups of all-purpose flour, and I'm going to place it into my food processor. Next, I have a half a teaspoon of salt, a tablespoon of granulated sugar. Now we're going to add our cold butter, and I cubed it so it would be easier to break up and really incorporate into our pie dough. And pulse it until it becomes a fine crumb. That was about 30 seconds, so let's see what we got. Oh yes, this is exactly what we want. It's got a nice crumb to it, and it just falls apart. Next, we're going to add 6 tablespoons of ice water. Alright, that was about 6 tablespoons and our dough has nicely started to form. So what we're going to do is turn this onto our work surface, and we're just kind of going to knead it together into a ball. Alright guys, our dough has come together. Now what you're going to do is you're going to kind of form it into a round circle and kind of break it in half. So I've kneaded the dough into 2 balls. And the reason you want to do that is because this dough needs to take at least an hour in the fridge to chill before we can roll it out. You want to work with cold dough. As you could probably see, my dough is starting to get really soft, and that's because my hands are a little warm. But you want to just break it up so it's easier to chill faster. So we're going to wrap these up in plastic wrap and just stick them in the fridge for about an hour. So while our cherry pie crust is chilling out in the fridge, we're going to move on to our second pie, which is our banoffee one. And with this crust, it's almost similar to a graham cracker crust, but instead of graham crackers, we are going to be using digestive biscuits. And it's basically almost like a sweeter graham cracker. And I personally like these. These are really good. And I found them in my local grocery store in my cookie aisle. But if you can't find them, just use some graham crackers. They taste just delicious. So I have 300 grams or 18 cookies, and I'm going to place these all in the food processor. Alright, now that those are in, we're going to blitz them up until they are a fine crumb. Alright, looks good, just like beautiful crushed cookies. So I'll be putting my own little spin on this crust. I have 50 grams of chocolate chips, and I'm going to blitz them up with my graham crackers. So next, I have a jar of goodness here. It is cookie butter. I like to substitute cookie butter with my sugar to any of my cookie crust because I feel like it really does enhance the flavor and gives it that really good sweetness that I look for. So I'm going to add about a tablespoon. I'm not really measuring it out. I'm just kind of eyeballing it. Lastly, we're going to add 113 grams or 1 stick of unsalted butter. Now we're going to blend this all together until our crust looks like wet sand. Alright, we got a beautiful wet sand, and you'll know it's ready when you can kind of press it with your fingers and it holds its shape. So now we're going to transfer this to our pie tin. So you want to start at the bottom and kind of work your way up the sides. So what I'm doing is taking the back of my spoon and just pressing in all that crust. And I'm really kind of just pushing it out towards the sides. And if I need to go back and fix it, then it's an easy fix. Because graham cracker crust, you can move around. And if you're like, oh, there's a hole. Yeah, a little bit more. Never knew it was there. Alright, our pie crust is ready. Now we're going to put this in the oven at 350 for about 5 to 7 minutes. We just want to get it a little bit golden. So I took my pie crust out of the oven and let it cool down for about 10 minutes. Next we're going to do is the filling. And what I have here is a 13-ounce can of dulce de leche, and you can make this by hand, or what the simpler method is to take a can of condensed milk, put it in a pot of boiling water, and cook that off for about 3 hours. But if you're in a rush, like me, I don't want to wait that long, then just use the can of dulce de leche. It's good and it tastes amazing. And what I've done to it is I've placed it in a heat-proof bowl and I put it in the microwave for about 30 seconds so it can get really runny and a little bit easier to spread out onto our pie. So we're going to take the filling and just pour it all in there. Okay, now that's in. Now we're just gonna kind of spread it all out with the back of our spoon. You don't want to put it up the side, you just really want to just get all of the bottom. So this is all spread out. Now we're gonna place this in the fridge for about 2 hours so the dulce de leche can set. And that way when you cut open, it doesn't all just come sliding out. And while that's chilling, we'll go back to our cherry pie. Alright guys, time to make our cherry pie filling. Here in this bowl, I have 6 cups of dark sweet cherries. And what I've done is to make sure that all my cherries are pitted. You don't want the seeds in there. They are not good with pie. So just make sure if you get fresh cherries, just get a little knife and just kind of poke those seeds out. And if you get them frozen, they should already be pitted. And if you don't want your cherries to be as sweet, you can also get sour cherries and just add a little bit more sugar to counteract that. But right now I'm using dark sweet cherries. So to my cherries, I'm gonna add 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. Now in this bowl, I have 200 grams or 1 cup of granulated sugar and 35 grams or 1/4 cup of cornstarch. And I'm just gonna give it a little stir. All right, that looks really good. You just wanna stir it up to make sure that there's no lumps with the sugar or the cornstarch because we want it nice and smooth when we put it into our filling. I'm also gonna add 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. So taking my spatula, I'm just gonna fold it all in together until all the cherries are nicely coated. Now that I've got my cherries fully coated, the way I like to make my cherry pie recipe is I like to cook it on the stove for 10 minutes on a medium heat. This allows the cornstarch to thicken up so that when you cut into it, it doesn't slide all over the place. So let's take these over to the stove and I'll show you how it's done. So in a large saucepan, I have 3 tablespoons of butter and I'm going to add my cherries to it. I have an electric stove and it takes me about 10 minutes on medium heat to cook my cherries to the consistency I like. So the consistency we are looking for is a little runnier than a jam. It is thick and smooth, and now we want to transfer these to a bowl so that way they can cool down for 30 minutes and get a lot more thicker as they cool. Now that our cherry pie filling has cooled down, we are going to roll out our crust. We're going to flour our rolling pin, and we're going to roll this out to about 12 inches in diameter. You want it a little bigger than your pie tin itself. I'm rolling this out about, I want to say a little less than 1/4 of an inch thick. You want your pie dough to bake out evenly because once you have your pie filling in there, that filling could make your bottom crust a little soggy, but you still want to be able to have a nice good bottom crust. All right, let's see if that's good. That is actually perfect. So the easiest way for me that I found to get this onto here is to take your rolling pin and just roll your dough onto your rolling pin. Pick it up, bring your pie tin over, and careful because it does want to roll out. And you just want to bring your pie dough all around your edges, and you don't want to pull on it because you don't want the pie dough to tear. You just kind of want to bring it down into the pie tin. Like I'm picking up the sides and I'm just slowly kind of bringing it down because you want to make sure you get all that air out of your pie tin. All right, that looks pretty good. So now I'm gonna take some of my baking scissors and I'm just gonna cut off a little bit of this extra dough because you don't want it hanging out too much, but you want to give it 1 millimeter off the pie pan because we are going to do a lattice, and the way we're going to tuck it in, you want just a little bit more wiggle room, but not this much wiggle room. Now, flour our surface a little bit, and we're going to take our second piece of pie crust that we did, and we're going to roll it out to make 10 strips, and we're going to make a lattice effect. Now we're going to slice them up about 1 inch wide. Got my strips cut out, and they are not all equal, I can tell you that right now. I don't have the steadiest hand to just whoop, go straight. Some of them do turn out straight, but they are a little wonky, but that's okay. Alright, time to assemble our pie. So here I've got my filling, it's completely cooled down, and look how beautiful and thick this turned out after it's cooled. So let's pour it all in. Pie fillings in, so now we're going to put our lattice. So what we want to do is start from the middle and work our way out. So you'll take one of the bigger middle strips and you'll place it right in the center of your pie. Then you'll take the next one and place it right next, still giving it about 1/2 of an inch because we want to see our filling. You'll do another one and place right on to the other side. You'll keep going kind of back and forth. So the way we're going to do the lattice is we're going to take the middle one and then the two edges and bring them up. So now we're going to take our other middle long piece of pie crust and stick it right here in the middle. And we'll bring these back, and then we'll take these two and bring them forward. Take another strip and bring it down. Put it back. Take these three again. You can already see that our lattice is starting to form. So then we're just going to do the same thing to the other side. So once we got our lattice, we're going to take our scissors and cut off any additional pieces. Alright, so just pinch together your doughs so they can stick together. So once you got that all together, just grab a baking tray and place your pie on it. So placing it on the baking tray will make it easier to transfer. Our last step that we're going to do before we put this in the oven is we're going to egg wash the top. Egg wash is what's going to give our pie a nice golden crust. So I have 1 egg plus a tablespoon of milk, and I've just beat it up a little bit, and now I'm going to brush it onto our pie. So we're going to top it off with some granulated sugar, and you don't have to top it off. This is just what I like to give it a little bit more extra crunch. So now we're going to bake this at 425 degrees for 25 minutes. Then once that's done, you're going to turn the heat down to 350, keeping your pie in the oven, and bake for an additional 30 to 35 minutes.
Now, if your pie crust is getting a little crispy when you turn it down to 350, I've taken some foil and I'm just folding it a bunch of times so that way I can wrap it around my pie crust and it will protect it from getting any crispier.
Our pie is out of the oven. Now some cherry juices have poured over, and I'm glad that I did have it on a sheet tray to catch any of those, so that way there's no need for oven cleaning. So this is piping hot. I just took it out of the oven, and you want to let this cool at least the minimum 2 hours. Keep it cool, and we'll come back when it's ready to be sliced. Alright guys, my cherry pie is just ready to be served, so now I'm going to make the whipped cream for my banoffee pie. So what I have here is 480 milliliters, which is 2 cups of heavy cream. And to this, I'm going to add 3 tablespoons of granulated sugar. And to add a little bit offie to the banoffee, yes, it is supposed to be banana and toffee, but originally it was banana and coffee. So I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of espresso powder to my whipped cream. Alright, now you're going to whisk this up until it forms stiff peaks. And you can use a hand whisk or you can use a mixer. I am just going to use a hand whisk. Whew, that was a bit of a workout, but we have our whipped cream. So I have 4 bananas, and as you can tell, they're a little brown. You want the brownness because it indicates the bananas are getting sweet. So these are perfect. Now I'm going to slice them into little pennies. Alright, my bananas are sliced, my whipped cream is made, and I just took my crust and filling out of the fridge. Alright, let's start putting on our bananas. Bananas are on. Now we're going to top it with the whipped cream. And I'm just going to take a spatula and just scoop it on there and just make it look pretty. Alright, here's my Banoffee pie. It is so delicious, and I traced around to make the pie symbol, and I just dusted it with some cocoa powder just to decorate it a little bit more. I just put some chocolate chips all around since there is chocolate chips in the crust, just to add up that chocolate flavor, and it is amazing. Our pies are ready, so now it's time to slice. Which one do I want to slice first? I'll slice the cherry pie. I had so much fun making these pies, guys. They turned out so good. Yeah, they look a little funky, but that's okay. These are homemade and they taste amazing. If y'all have any more requests for any more heavenly delicious treats you would like me to make, just leave me a comment down below. And don't forget to give this video a like. Remember to subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.